everybody, Panzer King here in the Lion's Lair, bringing you a new series once again, and it's going to be called Enigma. This series is going to basically go over painting color schemes that you can use for Global War 1936 or many of your Axis and Allies games as well. So this is just more so designed to make your gameplay more enjoyable, faster, easier to understand, see, visualize, and just make the game ultimately an enjoyable experience, because that's why most people want to play a game, is because they don't want to get frustrated and get upset. They want to understand it and, you know, improve on it. So that's why I figured it was time to do this Enigma color series for you guys. And if this is something you might want to adopt, great. If not, fine. General Hand Grenade said to me, probably a year ago or so, you know, do what's you. And I always lived by those words, do what's you. If what my logic has come to doesn't make sense, then, you know, do something different, you know, but find something that works for you. That's all I can say. Anyways, let's dive into it here. So obviously this is the first episode, and we're going to be going over the first nation, which is Germany. And you can see here down here in the Lion's Lair, I've set up this basically, these are Husky dividers you can get at Home Depot, and it goes through why I bought these, because I realized this game early on, you need a lot of units. It's true, you do. So I decided to buy these dividers. You know, they have multiple compartments, and I realized, okay, fine, let's use them. And as soon as I realized there was infantry chips, militia chips, you know, marine chips, and so on, I was like, great, I can attach them to these boxes. It's going to be awesome. But it wasn't until probably about 9 months, 6 months ago, probably even earlier than that, where I found that they actually had these chips, the artillery chips, heavy artillery chips, anti-tank, or in my term, tank destroyers, light armor, medium armor, heavy armor, and so on and so forth. And these are kind of the NATO ones, I think, that were devised for Global War 1985. And we have destroyer, cruiser, battleship, carrier. You know, I like to get more just to make it easy for when people come to the Lion's Den and play a game of Global War 36. All of this will be here, right? So, yeah, so I started actually gluing these I guess tokens or rondels or however you want to, markers probably, on here to signify, like, oh, I want Marines. Good, Marines are going to be in here. I want Mountain. No, wait, I want Militia. Oh, is there Volkssturm in here? And so on and so forth, right? So I always thought organization is always the key to a successful game, right? So anyways, that's how it came about. And then I realized, you know, there's a lot of ships in this game, and that's true. And I realized, you know, it's kind of silly to mark these ships up, because, you know, it's not historically accurate. And then of course I went over to General Hand Grenade's house and realized, oh wow, you've color coded all of these ships. Actually, this does make sense, right? Now, he has a different color scheme than me, which is true. But like I say, it works for him, and I realized, you know, I wanted to do something that probably works for me, you know, and perhaps someday you'll find something that works for you. But let's just dive right in here and go over what you see here. Basically here, and we'll start with the Navy first, the Kriegsmarine transports. The most neutral as you can, no defense value. The best color to assign this is white. You know, it makes sense. It's, you know, it has no defense value. White makes the best sense for an actual transport. Now, one unit I don't have here are attack transports, because Doug from Historical Board Gaming finally came out with them. So I'm gonna, you know, develop some of those for the Germans too. But they'll be probably a mixture of white and red paint to represent that attack value, but also to represent their transports. They're not combat vessels. Now, interesting point here, we come into these 3 special vessels. And this is just a standard coastal submarine sculpt. This is a very standard torpedo boat destroyer sculpt. You know, nothing too crazy. And then we have a more specified German coastal sub, coastal defense ship, and they're all painted gray. And the reason why is because basically these are leftovers from the First World War, more or less. Coastal sub, early form of submarine, early torpedo boat destroyer design, early coastal defense ship. You know, very basic and rudimentary in many ways. And you can't buy them in Global War 1936, so it just made sense to paint them gray. Old, obsolete, you know. Usually if you look at the board, you can look, that's a sub, that's a minor surface ship, and that's a, you know, higher surface ship. You don't really have to explain that too much. And also, one color solves it all, right? So that was definitely a general hand grenade idea. I adopted that, and I thought, you know, that is great. That is awesome. Let's stick with that, right? And then, of course, moving on to submarines. Well, we already went over the coastal subs. Regular subs, what color should they be? Are they probably the most potentially, quotation marks, weakest unit? If they are, perhaps it should be the coolest color on the spectrum, which in my mind would be black, right? But wait, you know, you have a chance to develop a new submarine in this game, and in this particular case, it would be U-boat type 21, you know, very advanced submarine, hard to detect and very deadly in many ways. Being that it's advanced, perhaps red should be that color, and we'll get back to that in a second. Carrying on with that cool theme, well, after black, my mind is brown. You know, it's got a little bit more beef, a little bit more power, and of course, I classify that as a destroyer. But of course, you know, she's in her own realm. But then there's a realm of 3 more ships. And ironically, green, blue, and purple kind of fall into that color scheme, where you have a light cruiser, heavy cruiser, battle cruiser. All basically do the same thing, except it's basically one number on a dice that makes the difference, right? But it shows the definition, and of course, as the cruiser gets bigger, it gets more powerful, hence the color gets warmer, right? Going over to here, and if we're gonna talk about battleships, we could argue that this Bismarck sculpt would probably be a Scharnhorst, Gneisenau, even though they only had 11-inch guns. But you know, it's a battleship. It's an older battleship because it can't move very fast. However, the new battleship, the one that can move faster, bit more speed, a bit more fire, you know, it's an upgrade from yellow to orange. And this would be probably our Bismarck class, right? You know, Bismarck Tirpitz. And then after that, you know, a heavy battleship. The battleships, in this case for Germany, they never were, right? And this is that particular H-39 sculpt, you know, that I painted red, you know, the biggest firepower, the hottest vessel on the seas. But it doesn't end there, right? Of course, we have our carrier class. And this is where I thought of that Olympic medal system where we have bronze, silver, and gold. You know, a carrier that can hold 1 plane, silver can carry 2, heavy carrier can carry 3, right? You know, and it's that, it just made sense, you know, so that way, if you're on this side of the table, is that like a light carrier or a heavy carrier? Oh, wait, no, it's silver, you know, it's a medium carrier. We know that, right? We understand that. And that color spectrum just made sense to me, you know? And of course, you know, panning over here, I think it probably makes sense to you too, right? You know, from, you know, the weakest to the most powerful or whatever, or the most neutral to the most aggressive, you know? So, interesting, right? Now let's move on to the Air Force. That's kind of a fan of mine. Now forgive me because once again, these are transport planes. I have not painted them in their new white sculpt. Just haven't had the time, and I've had other projects on the go. But that's why I put these white beads that I actually got from a local hobby shop painted them white to match the white. Transport, white. Just like a naval transport, white makes sense. Seaplane, blue, lands on water. It should be represented with blue. Makes a lot of sense, right? Fighter. This was the biggest, toughest decision because, oh, but the B&F colors, you know, World War II were yellow and some of them were different colors, but yeah, they were most yellow, you know, but at the end of the day, it's one color on a plane, you know, and that's what I grew up to live with. And this green color is, I think, Park Green from Tayami. And this is, I think, a different color coat of paint, but the greens, you know, they work, right? But they're a fighter. And then we're done, right? So then we go on to a different class, the bomber class, right? Tactical bomber, single engine, medium bomber, more often than not, 2 engines, and we have the Heinkels in the back and the Junku's 88s in the front, right? Yellow, orange, getting a little bit more powerful, and then we have what's called the strategic bombers, right? Which are these, I think the Messerschmitt 264s, 294s. Forgive my memory right now. It's but like that's the thing. It's just single, 2, 4. Makes sense, right? But then of course you have a technology that enables you to build a advanced bomber, you know, a heavy bomber, if you want to call it. And that's these guys right here, you know. These are different sculpts, obviously, right? I think this is the 390, and of course, I want to say I can't remember because there was actually many heavy bombers designed, but obviously, you know, this one is a 6-engine bomber, which I got from Historical Bombing Gaming, and these are 4-engine bombers, right? But these are the heavy bombers. Now, yes, it's contradictory because we have a battle cruiser that's cooler, and then of course we have these 3 colors. But the reason why I did that is because going on with the bombers and fighters, there is no yellow, orange, and red. We've already gone over the yellow, orange, and red. But now we've gone into, because this is kind of an anomaly, we've gone into jet fighters. And this way I've had ME-262s and the Horton tactical bomber, but kind of use it as a fighter. But I use bronze as that color scheme, right? Well, guess what? The next one on the scale are the carriers, right? Which are still very valuable. So consequently, that's why bronze and bronze. So you may ask, well, where's the silver and the gold? Well, the silver and the gold, they don't exist because that technology hasn't developed. Gold will be for like heavy bombers. The US builds jet bombers, maybe in an East versus West game. Sorry about that, guys. I had a little bit of a cough there, but going back to like silver, perhaps the Russians build a jet tactical bomber, you know, before the end of the 40s rollout, right? So that's kind of the logic with this setup, right? And that's where I kind of wanted to show you guys why this makes sense to me and maybe even makes sense to you, right? And we're using black as a color to represent Germany, but you know, it's probably the best one because it looks so good on the planes, right? You know, and you have all these sculpts, and the beads solidify it too, because like, oh, that's a heavy bomber, that's a tactical bomber. Oh wait, what's that over there? That's a jet fighter because it's bronze or whatever, right? So let's go to the final category tonight, and that is the land units. And in this particular case, we have anti-aircraft guns. White, you know, shoot down airborne infantry. Just made a lot of sense. And they were kind of the weaker units, but they have a specific task, like transports and naval units. Artillery. Once again, sticking with that theme, especially with the planes, green, the lightest. But then we also have the ability to build advanced artillery. So what I did is I figured, you know, a different sculpt, we'll use a different sculpt, but we'll color it green, but we'll add the black tip as well as a red tip to show it's advanced, you know? Kind of like, you know, developing heavy battleships, you know, it's advanced, right? Or developing submarines, or, you know, heavy submarines or more powerful submarines, they're advanced. And then of course we have self-propelled artillery. So that should be a different color scheme because they can move further, but they're also artillery, right? But of course, if you develop advanced artillery, you can also carry that on to self-propelled advanced artillery. So I figured, I use these sculpts from the America game, and if you guys are into historical board gaming, go check it out, because yeah, like that's, like $50 for a box set and you get all these units, right? It's a great deal. I've been itching to do it myself, but I've had other priorities. But yeah, advanced artillery. Carry on over here. So then we go into, once again, like the fighters, right? We go into infantry class, which are good at defending. That's why they're a bit higher, but the same thing with motorized infantry, mechanized infantry, yellow, orange. What's beyond that? Advanced artillery, or advanced mechanized, right? Which is, once again, goes with the theme. If you're developing that, it's the red. Red brings out the advanced. And then, of course, because this is a specialized unit for Germany, pink, right? Panzer Grenadiers. I have two different sculpts there, but basically pink shows you that this is a specialty unit, a more valuable unit even than advanced mechanized, because they can blitz on their own, right? So, and then moving on here, look at these our classifications of tanks. We stick with that carrier thing, because these are the big boys now on the block. Light armor, medium armor, heavy armor, and then advanced heavy armor, or in this case, King Tigers, right? Because they got the red there. But, heavy armor, once you develop that technology, they're gold. Panzer IIIs, Panzer IVs would probably be considered medium armor, silver. And then back here, these special units that were never built. And then, of course, the Panzer Is give that bronze color. And I use the barrel to do it because I still like the sculpt of the turret and everything else. We just want to indicate, is that a medium armor or light armor? I can't tell. And if you put these two units together and you don't color the barrel, well, you could say this is probably light armor and that's a heavy armor, which would be a mistake, right? So that's where color coding makes a big difference. And then last but not least, two more categories. Infantry. That's where I like the militia trips, the marine chips, the mountain chips, airborne, and cavalry chips, as well as using cavalry. I like the concept of just having chips on there. What is that? Perfect. You know what it is, right? And I showed you in a recent unboxing, there's those new rings that come out, and you could put, like, per se, a black ring around a mountain sculpt, if this is all you have, and make it SS, right? Which is kind of cool. So yeah, that made sense to me. Regular infantry, and then you just chip these units, right? You don't have to, paint them, right? Or paint their base yellow, paint their base white, and so on and so forth, right? And then, of course, the factories. And this is kind of pretty self-explanatory, but, minor factory bronze, medium factory silver, heavy factory gold, right? And that's where it just makes that much difference, even though you'll probably notice that down the road, right? It's got 3 stacks, so it looks like a major factory, but it's just easier. Color coding makes a big difference. And that's the thing with all of this stuff right here. It's just, color coding makes things just better, It just... it's nice. And the thing is, and I'm going to shout out some names. Corporal G is a good example. Detroit is a good example. I think even Grasshopper. So many people out there. And forgive me if I'm forgetting names. I'm just on the fly right now. But, they have such detailed infantry units and planes. And it looks so good. But it's hard to tell. You could have very detailed planes of this matter, across here, and but if you use the bead system, which I like, then fine. It doesn't matter what color you have, but it's just nice to look at heavy bomber bead, heavy bomber plane, and the flight stands, like these two are separate height, these two are separate height. these two are separate height, and jet aircraft and this are two separate heights, right? So just it helps, you know. And I was lucky with customizing those as well. But anyways, I hope you find this video informative, guys. And like I say, it's not meant to, you know, say you should do this, but I hope, you know, down the road, if you find we're playing this game and I'm making so many mistakes. I mean, right now I'm playing Operation Winter Solace with a few other friends, and you guys are probably watching this game, and you're like, God, Panzer King, you're making a lot of silly mistakes, but it's a big game. And on top of that, without having to worry about every movement, you also want to be able to look at your units and be like, that's that, that's that, that's that, right? And that's what makes this this important. And I realize it's a lot of customization, but at the end of the day, it just might make your game experience more enjoyable. Anyways, Panzer King here in the Lion's Den, bringing you this first new episode of this new series, Enigma, and hopefully you enjoy it, and we'll talk to you guys later. Take care, everyone. Stay classy.